This is going to be the first of a series of videos I'm going to be doing, maybe once every 2 weeks, just going over some real estate news in the media. Just do a quick summary. This is good for people that don't follow real estate in the news, but they just want to kind of get a quick snapshot of what's going on. Okay, so I'll try and make it quick, so stick with me. Try and keep this under 2 or 3 minutes. Here we go. First article. This is from the Toronto Star last weekend. Headline is, how did this Toronto home sell for $600,000 more than its 2022 purchase price? The story is just about a house that sold last year for $855,000, sold for this year for $1.5 million. And basically it was a flip. The buyers bought it, did a bunch of work to it, and resold it. So a couple takeaways from this article is you do see a big price difference between homes that have not been renovated and have been renovated. So good news for people that want to get into the market. There's those fixer-uppers that are out there. The other thing that I wanted to highlight is that we are now seeing, because of the hikes in renovation costs with inflation, we are seeing that reflected in the marketplace. Homes that have renovations are selling for a lot more than the ones that haven't, reflecting the increased costs of renovations that we've seen in the last couple of years with inflation. And finally, the third takeaway, there was some talk in this article about the relist price was 1.15 and it sold for 1.5, around 400,000 more than asking. I get this a lot. We talk about this a lot with buyers and sellers who feel that homes that sell for a lot over asking, as if that's some sort of indicator of the market. It really isn't. It's more of an indicator of just this particular style of that agent that priced the house. 99% of the times homes are selling for what they should in this marketplace. And if that is 400 over the asking price, that's because the asking price was probably 400 less than what it should be. So that's that. Okay, on to the next article. Infinity mortgages have arrived that stretch far beyond 50 years. They'll help avoid defaults today, but what about the defaults to come? This was another Toronto Star article from last week talking about infinity mortgages. Now, they're not actually called infinity mortgages. What they are is, these are variable rate mortgages, and when you get a variable rate mortgage, typically when the rate goes up, so does your payment. These ones are designed instead that your payment stays the same, but as the interest rate goes up, instead of your payment changing, the amortization lengthens. So it changes the amortization. Now, so what these are good for is keeping your payments the same, but the flip side is not so good. They use the word infinity. This one person that was in the article, their amortization got stretched out beyond 55 years. And so when they got their bank statement, instead of saying 55 years, it just had an infinity symbol because they weren't accounting for anything longer than 55 years. So yeah, the bad part about these mortgages is they are kind of kicking the can down the road, so to speak. A lot of these people, when they go to renew, they're going to be faced with higher monthly payments, and some of them may even be owing more on their house than they did when they started because of the way these are structured. So the takeaway from this really just comes down to simply, don't borrow more than you can afford. If you're borrowing during a time when the interest rates are low, you have to look to the future and be prepared to be able to afford rates when they go up. Better to make a higher payment than extending your amortization period, because again, in the end, you're going to be paying a lot more interest, and when you do go to renew, you may not be able to afford it. So plan accordingly. Okay. Third article here, more good news to end up on. As mortgage costs drive inflation, some consumers bet on variable rates. So this was from Bloomberg. What they're talking about here is that how mortgage applications recently, a lot more folks are inquiring about variable rate interests. So as you know, from the last 4, 5, 8 months or so, people with variable rate interest mortgages have been paying a lot more. They're getting notices saying the rates have gone up, your payment's going to be higher. So a lot of people switch to fixed rates. Well, there's now been a lot more people, according to rate.com, have been inquiring about variable rate interests. So a lot of the experts and a lot of the consumers now think we are at the cap, we are at the peak of interest rates. So a lot of people think, okay, now is the time to get into a variable interest rate mortgage. House prices are probably at their lowest, rates are at their highest. So I'll get into a variable rate mortgage. I'll still probably end up paying for the next year or two more than I would if I got into a fixed rate mortgage. But within a year or two, that should go down, and I will then be paying less than what somebody in a fixed rate mortgage is paying. It's always a gamble. In the long run, people who have gone with variable interest rates have always done better. It's not always that way, but historically they have. And so it looks like now we're hopefully at the peak. We're not going to see any more interest rate hikes. So now is the time people can start thinking again about getting into a variable interest rate. It's going to be high now, but within a year or two, it's going to expect it to go down. Okay, well, that's it. Thanks for watching. If you want more, tune in again. And I'm Mike Gallivan with the Gallivan Group at RE/MAX. Thanks for watching.